Dr. Stephanie Knight is the Dean at Simmons School of Education and Human Development at Southern Methodist University in Dallas. Dean Knight, I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions first. What words come to mind when you think of the word extrovert?
Loquacious, energetic, outgoing, life of the party.
An introvert?
Shy, does not want to be on stage particularly, likes to work alone on projects.
And what comes to mind when you think about diversity of thought?
Diversity of thought has several aspects to it, and I think of demographic diversity. I think of experiential diversity, and I think of cognitive diversity, the way that people approach problem solving, for example.
And how about familiarity bias?
I'm going to believe what I believed before, despite any new evidence that comes in.
And what strategies do you use to ensure that you're recruiting diverse thinking at SMU?
One of the things that we do is form search committees that have diverse members, because that will ensure that the kinds of questions that are being asked and what's being attended to will be different across these search committees. So, and we also provide a variety of settings so that people who are either introverts or extroverts will feel comfortable in expressing their opinions. So we have large group presentations, small group interviews, one-on-one, informal settings such as dinners and lunches and breakfasts, and then more formal such as receptions.
Thank you. You've written many books on learning environments. In your research and in your experience, what type of learning environment do you propose to get all personality types involved?
Well, the learning environment has to be safe, and it has to encourage risk-taking. And there have to be multiple ways that students can engage, so that we're paying attention to their comfort zones sometime during the school day or the school year, so that they feel more comfortable to interact. I like to provide a culture in which people feel safe to talk, and they have time to talk, and in which people listen, and in which they monitor how much they're talking and how much their classmates are talking, so that by the end of the school year, you've created a culture in which students in the classroom will turn to a student who's typically shy and say, Juan, what do you think about this? You haven't said what you think about this. And so that people are aware that sometimes you need to draw out other students. The idea of being able to take a risk is really important too. Sometimes students are shy, particularly introverts. If they think that what they say is going to be ridiculed or be considered incorrect. And so we talk about being able to listen to to students' explanations without judgment initially, and then together to figure out promising ways of thinking or of approaching problems. We also try to provide a culture in which it's okay to fail. We call it productive failure, in that you're going to get things wrong, and what's important is not whether they were wrong or right, but whether you continue to work on it until you get to a satisfactory solution.
So talking about taking risks and being right or wrong, do you think different personalities have different effects when it comes to risk taking?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think extroverts are more willing to be out there and to risk failure typically than introverts. So in some ways, the risk-taking favors the extroverts. it doesn't necessarily mean that the risk results in a more positive approach to problem solving, however, which is why we need to be able to pull out the thoughts of those who are less likely to publicly share them, and then to make sure that those who want to dominate, though, listen and learn to listen. And when you can achieve that kind of learning environment in a classroom, you have the optimal formula for success.
Thank you. In academia, are certain personality types better at giving explanations or presenting on a stage than others?
And I would say that academia to date has favored the extrovert, that the person who sits around a conference table and talks the most is the one who's most noticed, but not necessarily the one who has the best ideas. So in order to get diversity of thought, we've got to make sure that it isn't just the extroverts who are recognized for their thinking, that we also are able to pull out the thoughts of the introverts as well. I think it's also important, and this is not necessarily a question you ask, but I think it's important that we help students and we help faculty members in academia to be able to move across introversion and extroversion, to become ambiverted, or whatever we would want to call that particular state, that the context dictates whether you should be extroverted or introverted, and not necessarily your initial comfort with that context. And there are strategies that we can teach both people who are presenting and people who are listening to help that happen.
Do you have any that come to mind when you first think of that?
Well, part of a facilitator would be to make sure that all the voices are heard. So if it's a large group, that you're able to invite people to share who might not have an opportunity to get into the conversation because someone else is talking. I also think that small group work helps, because introverts are more likely to share in a smaller arena than in a larger group setting. So the use of group work also. And also one-on-one conversations. A teacher can really get to know how students think about things by meeting with them individually.
Thank you. As a longtime teacher, how does the personality type of the teacher affect the learning environment in the classroom?
Well, we'd like to think that it doesn't, because we're all, the professional development we receive tells us to act in certain ways according to the research on interactions with students and teachers. But there are implicit biases, stereotypes, tendencies toward thinking that have us acting in ways that we're not even aware impact. So I think we need first to examine how we think and act, our personalities. We need to think about the variation in our students and how they might think or act because of differences in their backgrounds or cultures or experiences. And then we consciously need to use strategies that will benefit despite the differences in personalities that evolve.
Thank you. You opened up the West Dallas STEM School, or are going to open up
Yes.
this August.
Yes.
With the purpose of providing under-resourced students with equal opportunities to learn and succeed. What tools are you planning to use to make sure that all personality types not just come out in the classroom, but tools that the students can use in the future, going into future grades?
Well, we recognize that you need more than just academic skills. And so socio-emotional learning and strategies will be a part of the experiences of the students in the classroom that they get from pre-K on through the 8th grade. So learning to cope with emotions and situations, learning to motivate themselves and to enact strategies that will help them succeed is very important. We also are interested in career and college readiness, so we want to introduce these students to mechanisms by which they can find out about future careers, in which they can find out about ways that they learn best and ways that they can take advantage of situations in order to learn and to succeed. So it will not just be cognitive skills that we're helping them acquire. It'll be socio-emotional. And then also we'll pay attention to the whole child in health and well-being, diet, nutrition, activity, health care will all be available in part of the experience at the West Dallas STEM School.
Thank you, and thank you for your time and perspective on this subject.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.